Stop wearing short skirts, you sluts.
Hey, they asked for
They
it.
are asking for it.
They're begging for you fucking
Yeah,
son of a
Jesus
bitch,
Christ,
Targaryen
man.
fuck. What up, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, your favorite full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. I'm Nate. Joining me, as always, my brother and co-host, and guy sitting in the chair beside me, Zach.
Wiggle, wiggle, what up?
What does that mean?
I don't know.
All right.
I was just doing like a little skirting,
I like
skirting,
it.
skirting.
I like it. So we read Game of Thrones books around here. For those who are actually familiar with them, they're known as A Song of Ice and Fire, because I'm going to correct myself. We are full spoiler. If you've joined us before, thank you for coming back. If you have not been here, this is your warning. This is your chance to depart, finish the series, come back. If you don't give a shit, then whatever. Thanks for hanging out. We appreciate it. Who did we read last episode, Guy?
Davos 1, we read his first chapter. Poor Davos did survive the Battle of Blackwater, but is not doing so well. He washed up on a little spire of rock and is feverish, shitting his brains out, shitting liquid, chilled, starved, thirsty, and basically ready to die.
Yeah, man, we got a lot out of that chapter. I don't know that there was... quite
a lot of our listeners pointed out, it doesn't progress the story at all. It progresses the story of Davos, and that is purely what it is. We get no news about the outside world, just it's that put a character in a box type situation, and goddamn, Davos has some sort of awakening, whether actual God-related or just spiritual. He believes he is now on a mission chosen by the Mother to... We'll find out eventually,
right.
But kill Melisandre and rid this evil priestess from his king.
Correct. But this chapter, well, he does get saved at the end.
He does, yes, by Salador, one of Salador San's ships.
But this episode, we are not reading Davos.
Nope.
We are reading Sansa.
Not too far away from Davos.
Yeah, and so this is her first chapter from Storm of Swords. And in her last chapter, it was right after the raging battle of Blackwater.
Yes. It was
during
the next morning of, because
she was looking out her window.
Her last, she had fled from the Queen's ballroom where Cersei had invited her after Cersei herself had left with Lancel, recalling Joffrey back to the Red Keep, which we know how the fuck that turned out. And Sansa fled back to her bedchamber, only to find she wasn't quite alone. The Hound had fled, as we know as well. He was terrified of the fire, refused to lead the sortie that Tyrion himself led, and he made his way up to Sansa's bedchamber, getting profusely drunk before doing so, and demanded the song she promised him. She sang, he cried, it was touching, and he ripped off his cloak after telling her he could take her and get her out, but she refused because she believes Dantos.
Right.
And... yeah, he leaves her his cloak, and she huddles up under it, and then the battle ends, and...
she just sees a city on fire.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. She meets with Dantos, and he gives her a particular hairnet with some gemstones set into it that he tells her she'll need to wear the day of the wedding, and that the day of the wedding is when he'll begin getting her out. Because his friend has returned to the city, and as full spoiler reread, we know that's Littlefinger, who has just come back from Bitterbridge after securing the alliance with the Tyrells.
Right.
Sansa, 1, Storm of Swords. Here we go.
Yeah, she's reading an invitation.
She's tripping out over an invitation.
Yes, she is. So, sent from Margaery Tyrell.
Like, girl, what up?
To some dinner.
Yo, come have some brunch. We're going to TGI Fridays. It's going to be a hell of a time. Olenna gets drunk, starts showing her boobies. It's a cool time.
Yeah, so none of that happens.
No.
We are introduced to Margaery.
Yes.
Very briefly, but...
I love it because now we're starting to get into where I believe the chronology that Martin was talking about has now sort of caught up.
Things are going to start progressing.
Last we knew in Tyrion 1, Margaery hadn't yet arrived in the city. She was sending carts ahead of her.
Right.
But she hadn't arrived yet. And now, some point between Tyrion and Sansa, Margaery has now arrived in the city. And she's wondering, Sansa's tripping out, wondering why on earth she would want to sup with a traitor's daughter.
That and the person who was married to her prince-to-be, who she's marrying.
She's wondering, does she resent me? Does she think I bear her any ill will? And then we get the actual arrival Sansa ruminates on. Margaery's actual arrival she had watched from the walls as Joffrey had met her at the King's Gate. and they rode side by side through cheering crowds, both of them beautiful. Joffrey in gleaming armor, Margaery in the Tyrell greens and golds. And
right.
Oh, she's a sight. People were calling and cheering Margaery's name as they passed, holding up children for her to bless, and scattering flower petals before her horse.
Yeah, behind her, her mother and grandmother, Lady Tyrell, Olenna, were in the big fucking carriage, basically like what Cersei rode up and up to the north and back in. Sansa and fuck me, man, this hurts. She thinks
small folk cheered those two.
Yeah, these are the same small folk, she think, that pulled me off of my horse and would have killed me if the Hound didn't come and save me.
Yep.
I did nothing more to them to earn their hate than she's done to earn their love. Now, I think this is her privilege here that she...
Or does she not know?
It could very much so be that.
Does she not know that there's being carts of food
of all
up?
things, like, you were with the prince and the queen, the people who are mocking these people that are starving to death. She's freeing them.
And who is going to tell Sansa that the Tyrell, if Dantos, and not that we have any indication that they've had any more meetings since their last one, but if they did, Dantos probably isn't going to tell her, like,
Margaery
it'll be
Tyrell.
like, she's arriving soon. It would be that information, not she's sending up things. She's on her way, but she hasn't arrived yet, so hold on a little longer.
No mention of the wagons of food for the small folk.
This either could be Sansa's privilege or ignorance of the situation.
Right.
I would lean more toward ignorance, because who's going to sit her down and say, this is what's happening?
Oh, she's sending wagons of food ahead, so these people who are starving are, it's not.
And it's not to, obviously, I don't say ignorance against Sansa, because it's showing how in the dark she is. She doesn't know what the fuck Margaery's intentions are here, because she doesn't know. This chick, in her mind, came into the city to take her place, and people are like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I did have the word nothing in quotes for when where it says Margaery did nothing to deserve the love of these people.
Right.
And while it might not be much, and Margaery is just as much guilty of that privilege, being the lady, and the difference is she's intelligent enough to see that Joffrey's fucking it with the people.
Yeah,
of the
Joffrey
citizens.
Margaery and Olenna are already sowing the seeds of a loved queen.
Let me come in and fix this terrible thing that you're dealing
and care
with.
For the poor small folk.
Right, and that's going to win the love over to
and
their
they have
side.
the means. I mean, they were engaged in the war, but Highgarden wasn't too badly affected by it.
Right.
They managed to kind of survive very well after Renly got killed.
Absolutely.
And then,
I mean, they couldn't have set up a more ideal situation.
Right.
So her thoughts then wander to the next worst possible outcome, that it's actually Joffrey who's
some cruel
doing
trick
this.
of his.
No, like telling Margaery, write this invitation to her. Like, this is going to be fun, and worrying, like, am I going to be beaten by a bunch of Kingsguard again?
Yeah.
Is that what's
to
come?
basically shame me in front of the older girl.
This part gets, fuck you, Martin, but she says that last time that happened, Lord Tyrion was there to save her, but he won't be next time. And I just think that's a very heavy line when we're going to find out very soon that she's marrying Tyrion.
Yeah.
And so just that he's not going to be there to save me. Well,
he's in the same boat, essentially.
Yeah, he's just as...
He doesn't have the power at this point. Yeah, she thinks that Dantos was her only hope now. She could only wait and be patient and count the days until Joffrey's wedding, which, Martin, you clever bastard, no matter what shape it takes, it seems Sansa was destined to be counting the days till Joffrey gets wedded. Because originally, of course, it's her and his wedding day, and now she's counting down till his and Margaery's. Perhaps she thinks she was doing Margaery an injustice. Perhaps it was just a dinner. But this was the Red Keep.
Well, I'm thinking her almost meaning, like, by accepting the invitation. If she accepts, then it's an injustice. This is just a courtesy that she has to extend here in the Red Keep, as like a high lord.
Well, like, that's what I think she's, the injustice is. Maybe there is no plan behind it. Maybe it's just she has to do this, and so she's just doing it, and I should accept, we should eat, and that's it.
Right, exactly.
But she thinks this is the Red Keep. This was King's Landing. This was the court of King Joffrey Baratheon.
And if she's learned anything at all, it's not to trust anybody at all.
Trust no hoe.
Trust no hoe.
She must accept. She realizes a traitor's daughter couldn't well refuse the queen to be So here, she thinks of the Hound, wishing that he was here, and wondering if it was a mistake to have not gone with him that night. And she recalls the night he came up, and it's just interesting that she wishes the Hound of all people were here.
Yeah.
And why is that?
So,
like, what in this situation, how would the Hound help?
It's almost this nostalgic familiarity. It's having this person around, even though he's this monster, she feels she's built this connection with him. She's kind of broken through
and knows
to
what
where
he wants.
they almost have this connection, this relationship that nobody else does because he's revealed things to her, even before that drunken night of the battle. And so he was just kind of and he has assisted in, like, he's never beat her like the other Kingsguard. So while he is this mean savage, she sees that there is something more to this guy. And so I think it's just having that comfort. Like, now it's just the Lannisters. Now it's these new people, the Tyrells. Like, I don't exactly. Yeah. Like, it's just that one that she's at least aware is less likely to beat the ever-living piss out of her for no reason.
Right, yeah. So she gets out ink and quill and writes Margaery an acceptance letter. And we skip ahead to when the chosen knight arrived. A Kingsguard arrived to escort her, but he was as different from the Hound as well, a flower and a dog.
Swoon.
Sweet Sir Loras Tyrell stood in the doorway and made Sansa's heart just flutter away.
My heart's fluttering away.
And just, of course, the awkward compliments are exchanged. She says he looks amazing, and he's like, that's usually my line, but
yeah, puzzled.
Thanks, so do you. And he tells
he's
her that
a top.
He tells her that Margaery's awaiting her, and takes her arm, and they walk and talk. And we learn that here Olenna will be supping with them.
And little Sansa's like,
the fucking hype train is real, folks. We're almost there.
I've heard they call her the Queen of Thorns. Yo. You.
Yeah, Loras laughs, and she's like, oh, that smile. And he's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't say that in her presence, though, or you risk getting pricked. And she immediately blushes and is like, of course, I'm a fucking idiot. And no woman wants to be called that.
I think of her, honestly, I think Olenna loves it. But,
definitely.
I really like Sansa thinking, maybe I am just that stupid little girl that Cersei thinks I am.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of a song that we've listened to recently where he says that if you look in the mirror and think that you're not going to be great, then you're not going to be great.
You're not great.
And, like, so having Cersei constantly berating her, she wakes up, I am just a stupid little girl. And so, once again, she's, like, kind of putting that on herself. Oh my God, I am stupid. It's not that you're a stupid little girl. It's that you're a little girl. Like, you should be able to be 13 years old and swooning over this. He's 17 years old. He's on the fucking Kingsguard. Like, fuck yeah, man.
He's quarterback of the football team.
He's Jaime Lannister of his day. Like, this is the guy to swoon over. There's nothing wrong with that. And, like, being a little mush mouth around him, saying, that's exactly what you
he laughs, and he just gives her the heads up. Like,
don't say that to her.
She sort of laughed it off and been like, oh, yeah, thanks for the heads up.
But, yeah, just how savage she is to herself because of the way Cersei treats her.
The environment around her,
It's awful.
She notes, one, that Loras just looks even better in white than he does in the greens and golds of the Tyrell. And they exit in the inner yards of Maegor's ring with practice, the sounds of practice, as the outer wards, we learned in Tyrion's, are given to the guests to raise their tents and pavilions because the city is filling up.
Yeah, Balon Swan let them in there. Motherfucker.
Sansa thinks, watching the men train, they have scarcely finished burying the dead from the last battle, and they already practiced for the next one. And I just think that's a prudent line here in this time of war.
Yeah, especially going into this book.
And with the Tyrells here, like this intercity battle that's about to start happening.
She mentions Garland, Loras' brother.
They see that stud fighting.
And that motherfucker's taking 2-on-1, 3-on-1 at this point, I think. Yeah. And he mentioned, they have the talk that he's just this badass who only trains in those numbers.
That's the most realistic.
That's how it really is during battle. And talk of how Loras is better with the lance, and it leads to him giving Sansa the flowers. But before I get there, actually, I just want to mention, because we're not going to get heavy into it in this episode, that there's a lot of talk that Garland and Willard and Loras are playing huge potential roles come fucking Winds of Winter,
Right.
just because we don't know where they are.
Well,
or at least
I think
Garland
this,
and Willard.
I think this line is heavy foreshadowing because he says straight up, Garland is better with the sword, and Loras is injured storming the siege of Pike or of Dragonstone.
Yeah,
and that's where he gets injured. So like right here, this motherfucker, and Olenna nails it later. He's young and he's good at knocking men off horses with sticks.
Right.
It doesn't make him wise.
But Garland is
Garland's a badass.
Similarly, we'll also get Willard hype talk later on. That and I really like I really think I like Willard a lot. And I think I'll talk about him in a little bit.
I would really like to meet Willard in person.
But yeah, we'll go forward. And
so
then get to that
Garland's a badass, and I heart him. Sansa says that she knows that Lancel's a good lance because she saw him, and he's like, when? And she's like, the Hands Tournament.
Which
don't
I
you
think
remember?
this is funny because this is very much so that 17-year-old.
Oh yeah.
Oh, which tournament did you see
she's
me
like,
at?
you gave me the red rose at the Hands Tournament. All the other girls got white, but I got red.
And he's like, oh yeah,
you declared no victory half as beautiful as me. And then she realizes he doesn't remember me, the rose, and she's like, it had meant something. It meant everything.
And I think that. This is again that 13-year-old stuff. It's very, it's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Like, is this
Lancel loves the adoration and being that suave, handsome. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. In his age,
he probably didn't even realize that he gave her a different color flower.
And that's the thing is that he didn't even realize.
And similarly, it very well could be that he gave a flower to somebody on the other side that was the same color as the one she got.
I think it's everything. There's a red flower that goes to one specific.
Exactly.
I mean, we've seen this before with Elia and Rhaegar.
Right, one blue,
Rhaegar and like Lyanna, the crown of blue. Like, it's just...
Yeah, so it's pretty funny.
And she's like, when you on a horse, Sir Robar Royce? And then it just gets darker. Dude. I slew Sir Robar at Storm's End, my lady. He sounded sad, she notes.
Which I think comes to the fact that he
regrets it.
It's not so just that, it's that he's also recalling that tournament, realizing, oh yeah, we did at that tournament.
We did joust
and like I won, and like it wasn't a bad joust. Like
and Sansa, this is the foot and mouth moment where she doesn't realize this is where you should have read.
We actually had a conversation of this off mic. So this is where she says, oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, that was when Renly fucking died, wasn't it?
I'm so sorry for Margaery when Renly died. It must have been so. And he gets this. It's plain black and white in the text for Margaery. She
was at Bitterbridge. She didn't see. Renly is dead. Robar is what?
And we know that it's not even she wasn't there seeing it. It's I was the one that Renly loved me. I loved Renly.
That's what he said. I saw him. Why Margaery isn't a concern over Renly right now. They didn't have what we had. I had to see him.
And this is absolutely grief right here.
It's his justification for... I think he regrets killing Robar Royce.
Right.
And it's the justification for it. I saw Renly's body. I went into a blind rage and slew the two closest men.
Right.
And Robar was one of them. But he says there's no use speaking them. They're dead.
Well, she gets upset here too now because she's upset him, and
he's
similarly, it's not he's not mad at her. He's aware that she doesn't understand that it was never an open thing.
How can he explain it? Yeah,
and you can't really blame him for getting a little like, because that'll sting.
Right. He's still grieving.
And he's not yelling at her, and she apologizes.
And he says, you couldn't offend me, my lady.
Like
no worries.
You're
but
right.
They continue on in awkward silence, and she's just like, fucking, I'm an idiot. I'm so stupid.
So they arrive at what's called the Maiden Vault. And the Maiden Vault is where, what was it, Arion? I forget which one. I didn't note his name down. One of the old Targaryens locked his half-sisters, in there because he was celibate and didn't want to tempt himself.
Stop wearing short skirts, you sluts.
Hey, they asked for
it.
They
are asking for it.
They're begging for you fucking son of a bitch,
Christ,
Targaryen
man.
fuck. Like, if you're going to take a pledge, don't be a fucking sick fuck.
Yeah,
then you don't have to...
and call it the Maiden Vault. Like, there's nothing fucking Freudian in that one.
I'm celibate, but those sluts are in there. You're gonna stay virgins.
We're gonna lock away their maidenhead. Yeah, Jesus
Fuck
Christ.
you.
Anyway,
that's where the Tyrells.
That's where the Tyrells are. Which
is very telling.
Right?
Because Margaery's going to be put into question about her virginity, her maidenhood, and which is going to be shown as gone,
right.
And she's going to admit to it to get atonement.
Yep.
And so the fact that well fucking done,
Martin.
Martin.
that little bit there.
Yeah,
is
you're
just,
in this.
This is where they are now too. Ha! The Tyrells.
And for all the people that are going to be there, it's going to be the one who is most notorious in this book series at this point for having to go and atone for her sins of not actually remaining virtuous.
So 2 guards, large guards, stand by the door, and as they approach, Sansa can't tell one from the other. They have the exact same face. And she's like, Sir Loras, who are these people? And Loras explains that they are his grandmother, Lady Olenna's personal guard, named Eric and Eric. But she can't tell them apart, so she calls them left and right.
Dude, she's got 2 Robert Strongs. She just has 2 fucking, like, they've always had, the Lannisters have the Mountain and the Hound, and then Sir Robert Strong and Kyber, and, like, she's got left and right, and these are big motherfuckers. I want to see them go. Like,
I feel like there's also, and I'll have to look it up and touch back on it, but I feel like there is an Eric and an Auric in history who have killed each other.
I think they were
one
Starks.
Slew the other.
I believe they were Targaryens. It was one of the 2, and they were fighting they were brothers.
Yeah.
And
one
I
slew
can't
the
think of it
other,
right now, but yes, absolutely correct.
And so left and right open the doors, and Margaery herself sweeps out to greet them.
Which this is, unless it's all her playing the game.
Oh
and
my
being
god,
sly
dude.
And debonair.
But if it is, like, I'm sold.
Otherwise, regardless, this invitation was not fake or falsified. She is here greeting her herself. Sansa, my dear, thank you so much for being here. And welcomes her, makes her feel spectacular.
Dismisses Loras with a sisterly kiss and takes Sansa by the hand and leads her in. And they enter a nice common area.
Let me preface everything with saying I 150% think that while Margaery genuinely does care for people, this is all the game. This is all her drawing. Again, I think she does sympathize with Sansa and sees what she's going through more than anybody has so far.
Correct.
I think Margaery and Olenna is a little pricklier. She doesn't give a fuck so much as as Margaery cares yet. Margaery hasn't gotten to the point where she can just
turn it off.
I don't care who you are. But I definitely think that this is heavily exaggerated to lure Sansa in.
Oh yeah. And that's why Margaery is one of my favorite characters, because I 100% think it is her playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there's empathy there. She understands that she's the extreme of Sansa's "I will make them love me," because it's not sincere with her. I don't think she doesn't.
She sees it in the stories, and that's what it's supposed to be.
She realizes that it will help her become queen.
I don't know where it comes from with Margaery, because Margaery's only 16.
Right.
Margaery's not like this 30-year-old
got Olenna.
wife. But is that 100%?
Yes, it's Olenna, and Olenna straight up fucking says in this chapter, I've hopefully explained to Margaery what a comely man means. Like, what good that is.
Because, she definitely, for a 16-year-old, seems to have a grasp of how the mechanics and the politics work.
So let's get into it before we get into it. So Sansa enters, and there's a fire crackling merrily in the hearth, and around a long table, a dozen women were seated.
All right, so we start with Lady Aleri, which is Mace Tyrell's wife and
Margaery's
Lady of Highgarden. Well, technically, they're still... Olenna is the Lady of Highgarden, but yeah.
Margaery and Loras' mother.
Right. Next, we have the 3 cousins, Maga, Alla, and Eleanor.
They're going to be Margaery's little retinue that kind of hang around and tag along with her.
They get questioned during
they do.
the stuff with the High
They're
Sparrow.
basically rumored to have little orgies, and that Margaery gets accused of.
So then they have Lady Jaina.
Lady
Leonette.
Sir Garland's wife.
Yes. Next we get Septa Nysterica.
Yeah.
I don't know who this bitch is, but
badly pox-scarred, but jolly. Anyone that's described as jolly.
You get Lady Graceford, who I didn't write who the fuck she is.
She was with child. That's all.
Right. Lady Bulwer, who is just 8 years old.
Was a child.
And then we get Mary Crane. You can call her Lady Mary.
You're supposed to call her Mary.
Right, but not Lady Merryweather.
A sultry, black-eyed, Myrish woman.
Now, we know that this is Taena Merryweather.
Yes, we do.
Taena Merryweather will be...
Cersei's...
giving up the
Bedwarmer?
Tyrells. Now, it's supposed to be
trade,
that she's a
like
traitor.
a gift
She trades... Like, she gives up Margaery.
Right.
And she... goes against Tyrion as well during the council.
Yeah.
She'll
She helps,
testify against him. And she kind of fucks with shit, but then, she will start hanging out with Cersei, becoming her friend and confidant. And then eventually, Cersei gets drunk one night and they sleep together. And then at the end of Dance,
she disappears.
She gets taken away.
Bounces.
She's supposed to be gone, and Cersei's kind of happy about that because she talks to Kevin, and Cersei thinks like that's actually probably for the best right now with me going to the Sparrow because she actually has information that can incriminate the fuck out of me.
So that's our introduction to her here.
Fuck, and she's a pretty big thing.
Lastly, Margaery leads her over to the wizened, white-haired doll of a woman at the head of the table. And Margaery presents Lady Olenna Tyrell.
Kiss me, Cal.
Widow to Lord Luther.
Jesus Christ.
Sansa kisses Olenna's cheek as bid, and Olenna says that she knew Sansa's grandfather Rickard, though not well. And she hears that Lord Hoster is now dying as well.
No, my Rickard died before I was born.
Right.
Yes, I know this, girl, and this is where we start immediately. Because we get that, like, we don't know what we're feeling when she says, kiss me, girl, like, because that could be a Cersei thing when she's older. That's a Maleficent from, that could be very much, who knows what that is. But then yes, we know that, girl. Yep. Nobody's saying that she would, like, I'm telling you, I met the man. Yeah. So fuck off and
Lord
listen.
Hoster's dying as well, but he's not as old as me, but I suppose night falls for us all in the end. You would know that more than most, poor child. You've had your share of grief. We are sorry for your losses.
Yeah.
So the difference here between the Tyrells and everybody else is that the conversation starts with,
I'm sorry.
We acknowledge your grief, and we're sorry for it.
So this is kind of piercing a wall that nobody else has done in this way.
Openly acknowledge.
I understand that
these were your parents. This is your family.
I'm so sorry that the people you loved and cared about died.
Besides Tyrion. Tyrion's the only person who has apologized for her losses.
Yes,
but
that's true.
Yeah, the Tyrells are the first approach to that to begin this breakdown of Sansa's defenses.
Yeah, and they seem. Again, they may just be experts at the game, but it seems genuine. Like,
right.
Because
I think to a degree it is.
I don't think that there's any disingenuous stuff about that.
I don't think there's nefarious means with Margaery being queen.
Is the kind of person who she's not friends with Ned Stark. He's too uptight for her.
I have a lot to say on that.
But I think that they get along. And they have a major amount of respect for each other. Right. Because while
I could agree with that 100%.
Olenna will be playing her games, she's going to be upfront with it.
Yes.
No, fuck you, Ned. This is what's going on.
You detest the game and all of us who play it. And so, you've got that cold northern stick up your ass. But there's a sharpness in your tone.
Honor got you killed. Right. But
you lived your life.
You lived by it, and so I don't think that they would hate each other by any means. I think it would even be more cordial than a Tywin Ned thing, where I feel like those two had that similar respect for each other. Tywin a little more condescending towards Ned, being I feel like they kind of everybody in the South just thinks of
Ned respected
it's a Jetsons Flintstone thing.
Didn't respect Tywin, the man.
Exactly.
And so, not knowing what to say, Sansa offers her apology to Margaery for Renly's passing, and they say he was really gallant, and Margaery thanks her, but Olenna snorted. Yes, he was gallant and charming, and he knew how to bathe and dress and smile, and somehow that gave him the notion he was fit to be king. Queen, preach. Because
I knew this was coming.
Within his own
his grandmother
from the mouth of his own.
I don't know what the fuck this kid thinks he's doing, but he had no right to be running around pulling this shit that he wants. Grandmother,
Renly was brave and kind, grandmother, and Loras loved him well enough, and father as well, and this is when Olenna says, Loras is young and is very good at knocking men off horses with sticks.
Now, is this within this circle, it's open that Loras and Renly were a thing, and she was a front, where she said, Loras loved him well enough.
I think so. I think these ones, these Margaery and Olenna knew that Loras and...
because I definitely know Margaery.
Right.
But Olenna, think as well?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just they use it, because they can mean here, that's why we're even bringing it up.
Loras can't inherit, right. He could before the Kingsguard, but, he was on Renly's Kingsguard, so
right.
and she, we get her opinion that they were following that fucking boat regardless of what she said. So when he was with Renly's Kingsguard, he was kind of free to fuck whoever he wanted because he had and who better? He's not going to raise a bastard then,
exactly.
And Renly can't get pregnant.
But yeah, so that honestly, I think that Highgarden's proximity to Dorne has, even though they hate each other, I think that they've kind of rubbed off with that being a little more open to, yeah, man, do what you got to do.
In separate ways,
right.
Yeah.
So Margaery, again, she hushes Olenna and is...
Well, because she also says, Olenna continues saying that she just wishes Mace that she had been born a peasant woman so she could have beat the shit out of him with a wooden spoon so he would mind her more enough.
But yeah, and Marjorie's like, whatever will Sansa think of us, grandmother?
Oh, wait, because it was... Before that, it was Lady Allery after the big wooden spoon who was like, Mother, and Olenna's like, bitch, shut the fuck up. I'm not your mom. Don't you be taking that tone of voice with me, because unless you came out of my loins, and I'm pretty sure you didn't, don't be addressing me as mom. And don't take that fucking tone with me either.
And
then Marjorie's like, Mother, or Grandmother, mind your words. Whatever will Sansa think of us? And
hopefully that we have some wits about us.
One of us.
Shit, man.
Yeah, and then she goes into it. I told them it was treason. How could Renly possibly have claim to that iron ugly chair? But the Tyrells, they come from stewards. And when thinking of his grandson's arse on the throne, Mace puffs up like, Margaery, what is it?
A puffish, grandmother.
They call them puffish, grandmother.
She's of course they fucking do. So, obviously, we're all on board here that clearly Stannis had the rightful claim, and that Olenna is on board with the correct side because she's not dumb and doesn't think Renly should be
That's why her and Ned would get along.
Right, because the rightful, this is the way things
they're
are
boomers.
supposed to... no change. So she does also mention that, even though the Baratheons' claim to the throne itself is only kind of there just because of some marriage through Targaryen shit, but she starts talking about bloodlines and how water thin they basically all are anyway. Including their own.
Yeah.
That they barely even have a fucking claim, and anybody can track their shit back forever. I think I clumped some things together there, but...
She says that her son Mace ought to take the puffish as his sigil. He could even put a crown on it if it would make him happy. We should have stayed well out of this bloody foolishness, but once Lord Puffish put that crown on Renly's head, we were in the pudding up to our knees. So here we are to see things through. What say you to that, Sansa?
Lady Allery kind of cuts in here and is like, you need to chill with the Lord Puffish. Sansa, there's going to be food soon. We've got lemon cakes. Do you like lemon cakes?
Yeah, Sansa's like, yeah.
They're my favorite. And Olenna's like, I fucking know this.
Yeah.
And then we learn that
Varys
has been feeding her some information, and she's not ashamed to be like...
She doesn't see the point of a eunuch. It's only men with the fun bits removed. That's it. That's all. And then she demands the food served and bids Sansa sit next to her and says, I hope you are fond of fools. And Sansa's like, thinking of Dantos?
So she thinks
Sansa's got to be like that little, oh shit, right? That's where the stutter comes?
Partially, yes.
Because then Olenna kind of catches it and she's like, because Sansa asks the kind of motley and she says, feathers in this case. Who did you think I meant? My son? These ladies? Olenna was catching on that she had someone else in mind, so I have to think of Dantos.
And she knows, I'm pretty sure, right now, some plans.
The fool that... Littlefinger works with Olenna.
Exactly.
And so the fool that Sansa doesn't want anyone to know about right now is Dantos, so,
And then instead, their fool from Highgarden, Butterbumps, comes jovially wandering into the room.
Yep.
And he's covered in feathers, as opposed to just normal motley.
He's as big as 3 moon boys and somersaults up onto the table and lays an egg right in front of Sansa, which tells her to crack. And when it is cracked, releases a bunch of baby chicks onto the table, which start running around. It's a grand old time.
He does little magic tricks with them. It's cool. Do you make anything of the fact that he's covered in feathers, or do you think that's just a Highgarden something, just a gimmick that he pulls? Because why the fuck not?
Yeah, that.
Word. So, yeah.
Servants start bringing in the food. B-Bumps starts juggling. And Olenna asks if Sansa knows her son, Mace Tyrell. And Sansa, of course, with her courtesies, answers, "A great lord." And Olenna, "A great oaf. His father was a great oaf as well, managed to ride off a cliff while hawking, looking up, paying no attention to where his horse was taking him. And now my oaf of a son does the same, only this time he rides a lion."
Yeah, and so she goes about telling Sansa that it warned Mace. The Lannisters aren't people to be fucking around with. So, and he gave her a tut, mother. Lord Puffish, fuck, man, she kills it with the
She
names.
also says, if you ever have a son, Sansa, beat him often, so he learns to mind you. I didn't beat Mace enough, and now he minds me not at all. All these kings would do better if they'd laid down their swords and just listened to their mothers.
Yeah.
So Sansa kind of just watches Butterbumps for a minute, and then
realizes that everybody else is also doing the same when Olenna drops some bombs on her, and she's like, "So, tell me about this prince, yo.
Yeah.
The little fucking devil with the crown. What's he like?"
Sansa does the who, me, my, and Olenna's like, you, who better? You, yes, you. The boy seems kingly enough, if a bit full of himself, but that's the Lannister blood in him. But we've heard some troubling tales. Has he mistreated you?
Yeah, she just gives all the safe answers. He's so gallant, and he's got the most striking blue eyes, and his hair is very soft and well kept and groomed.
Yes, but how kind is he? How clever? Has he a good heart, a gentle hand? Will he honor Margaery and protect her?
Yo, and I bet that anybody, and especially Olenna, and it's just Margaery it's good cop, bad cop right here.
Right.
But anybody could see the fucking panic rising on Sansa.
Oh, yeah. She's glancing around.
Wonder, is this a setup? What are they doing? Why are they asking me these things? There's so many people around, and, anybody could be listening. No.
So Sansa says he will, and it said Sansa lied. And she continues saying he's very comely. And
this is when the line.
Olenna says, hopefully I've taught Margaery what comely men mean. Child, some say you are as big a fool as Butterbumps, and I'm starting to believe them. Aeron Brightfire was comely enough, but a monster all the same. But what is this, Joffrey? Are you frightened? We're only women here. Tell the truth. No harm will come to you.
So Sansa kind of goes into this, just bubbling out with some stuff about...
Well, because she goes, my father always told the truth. And Olenna says, yes, Lord Eddard had that reputation. And they named him traitor and took his head. I think it's interesting that she says he had that reputation. Doesn't confirm
that he tells the truth.
That he always
That's his reputation.
tells the truth.
Does she know something? She's
she
right
know
in
something?
the way. She's right. That could have been the very first stop along the way to return home with Jon Snow.
She does not confirm that he
had that reputation.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that a huge little
tiny overlooked thing that...
Right, Olenna's hinting at that she knows something about Ned.
Olenna is well aware of the fact that he has a secret.
Yeah, and they named him traitor and took his head. And so
that was Joff's doing.
Joffrey did that. He promised mercy and cut his head and took me up and made me look at it. Wanted me to weep. And Sansa starts panicking. She's like, fuck.
Shit,
fuck.
I said too much.
I should not have done that. Shouldn't have done that.
And Margaery is like, grandmother, look at her. She's terrified.
Yeah.
And Olenna just fucking asserts her authority. She's like, hey, fool, sing right now. Right her. And he does. The bear, and the maiden fair.
Yeah.
Is her request.
And Olenna scooches forward and says, even as a girl, it was said that the Red Keep had ears everywhere. Well, they'll be better for a song, and we girls can speak freely.
Yeah, she says that, they've got spiders there in Highgarden, and they know how to deal with them there
They usually leave them be to spin their webs to themselves, but if they get underfoot, we step on them. The truth now, what sort of man is this Joffrey who calls himself Baratheon, but looks so very much like a Lannister? And
Sansa spills.
We start getting this conversation cut in with lyrics to the Bear and the Maiden Fair, which is very interesting because it's accompanying discussion about Margaery and about this maiden, I just threw my pen, who's about to, supposed
the
maiden,
Beauty and the Beast type deal.
Who's about to be going to this beast.
Which is funny because the song itself is attributed to this bear not being a complete monster, because there's also
the song itself is fucking disgusting.
Attributes to the bear and the maiden being Jaime and Brienne, and how they correlate, especially not just because of the fact that she fights a bear in the bear pit and is rescued, but their relationship itself and how it can work with the song. I think that it has not as much meaning here as it does in other places. But yeah, I definitely like that it's disconcerting. Like, it really puts you in that place of like this loud screeching noise happening all at the same time as this like private little secret conversation in the garden.
Yeah, it's a great little cover for it. It's turning up the music so that we can talk. Heart in her throat, Sansa says, Joffrey's a monster. He's evil and cruel, and the queen as well. And Olenna and Margaery exchange a glance, and Olenna says, a pity. And Sansa's like, please, do not cancel the wedding. Joffrey will know it was me. He'll know I said something. And she's like, yeah, don't worry about that. The wedding's going on. And it's at this point that I thought the song cutting in was interesting, because talk then turns to Margaery asking, or Olenna asking if Sansa hawks. And Margaery asking if she would ever. And this is cut in with, oh, sweet she was and pure and fair, the maid with honey in her hair. And this is when Sansa admits, like, giggly, like, a little, I would like to hawk. And I think it's just, she's so sweet and pure. Yeah, because Highgarden, she starts getting excited about going to Highgarden.
When really she's going to get taken by the monster of Tyrion.
Well, like, that, any one of the monsters that are currently circling her. And, it continues on where...
Well, because then it goes to them inviting her to Highgarden.
Right,
and saying, would you like to go? And she says, abso-fucking-lutely. And they kind of break into the big reveal that they want to marry her to one of the sons.
Well, because she was thinking that Highgarden, from Margaery's description of the flower gardens and everything, sounds beautiful. It sounds exactly what she pictured King's Landing would look like.
Right.
I mean, again,
she's doing exactly what she did to the north,
she's
and how quick
it's seeing the people, the danger.
While I definitely agree that Highgarden is much more what she's always dreamed of than King's Landing was.
Right.
We've spoken to how it happened with her being married to Joffrey, and then just the breaking up with Joffrey, and it's going to happen here briefly with Loras. Because they offer her to marry one of the sons and bring it up to her, and she's like, oh, it'll be fucking amazing to marry Loras. That'd be fucking great. She just was escorted by him as a Knight of the Kingsguard. She knows he's not available. Yeah. Like, you're smarter than that. It's just that she's blinded by this desperation.
So, yeah, she was like, yeah, fucking Highgarden, I'd love to, but the queen will never allow it. And Olenna's like, she will. She values our alliance too much, and if my lord's son requests it, she'll have no choice. And he won't have a choice to ask her, because he doesn't know our true purpose. And that's when Sansa's like, what? And they're like, yeah, we want you married to our grandson. And she's like, yeah, Loras, fuck yes. And this is why I brought up the song. The song is mirroring the twist of this reveal, because, she's like, yeah, please. And Margaery begs her, I've never had a sister. Like, please, consent. Like, we'd love it. And then we get the reveal that, it's Willas, not Loras. And he's the heir to Highgarden. Not the least bit oafish, but she is, like, dizzy from this rug being pulled out from under her once again, which is where I do begin to see where people could start to get a little annoyed with her because of how quickly she's allowing these
Now, this one is definitely on her.
She got swept up in it,
right.
Definitely.
And, like, again, she's 13, so I give it to her.
Right.
And, but again, I think that in the eyes of lords, Willas isn't the worst one. I think I called him Willard earlier, but he's not the worst person you could marry. Like, it sounds like he's a smart...
I mean, we get kind of how shallow Sansa is. He's a cripple.
Right.
His horse fell when he was a squire, broke both his legs, and so that's what's turning her off to this.
Now, we know from some Winds of Winter sample chapters that it appears that there are green seers in the south as well.
Potentially.
And now we do have Bran as a very exciting cripple. His story's very crazy. I feel like Willas's is very similar, not magically necessarily, but just how much is going on around him. I feel like he's talked up. We don't know where he is. He's with Garland a lot. Mm-hmm. He's the heir to Storm's End, which I think is very interesting also that in Tyrion's last chapter, we got Tyrion asking for Casterly Rock, his rightful inheritance, but he will not be granted it because he's a cripple, because he's a dwarf. Willas is still Lord heir to Highgarden. He's a cripple. Like, he's not a knight. I don't know if he'll ever be granted the castle or if it'll go to Garland, because Garland can actually produce offspring. I don't know if he's incapable of producing offspring, Willas there.
Right.
But I just think like you said, kind of shallow of her. Like, and I get, being these are forced and arranged marriages.
This also is meant to mirror what happens with her and Tyrion. Marrying,
right.
she thinks like she's good.
This is the worst thing, but at least I'm getting out.
It gets hooked from her, and that's why I brought up the song, because at this point, Olenna adds in that it was that snake Oberyn Martell was to blame, and his maester as well. And after that, the song kicks up, and this is, I would say, Sansa. I called for a knight, but you're a bear, all black and brown and covered with hair. And Margaery goes on to say, Willas has a bad leg, but a good heart. He used to read to me when I was a little girl and draw me pictures of the stars. You will love him as much as we do, Sansa. She kicked and wailed, the maid so fair, but he licked the honey from her hair. That is Sansa. This rug that keeps getting pulled out of her with these romances. Tyrion, she's gonna go basically kicking and screaming to that wedding. Willas, she would basically go an unwilling participant to the wedding to Willas because he's crippled. And so it's just the layers that Martin's got here. This song, while they're discussing this arrangement and knowing what's going to happen with Tyrion in the future when the Lannisters learn of this plot here.
Yeah, man.
So, and we also get the Oberyn Martell reference, which
is coming very soon.
It's always his just arrival.
And so with this, the song kind of comes to an end, and the arrival of some cheese.
Sansa asks, when would I meet Sir Willas? And they answer, soon after Joffrey and I are wed. My grandmother will bring you to Highgarden. And Olenna just smiles and pats her hand and says, I will. And so, B-Bumps finishes his song.
And so, again, enforcing that she's counting down the days till Joffrey's wedding. And, enforcing that Olenna's going to be here for the duration of that time.
Yeah, she is.
And then, lastly, the line that we kind of breezed over earlier where it was in the TV show as well. And can I mention that since we are now here, rest in peace
Dame Diana Rigg,
the late, great. So she had the line that when are the leeks? Get rid of these leeks. I'm tired of fucking leeks. I want the cheese. And they were like, the cheese will be served later. And she's like, the cheese will be served whenever the fuck I tell you to bring it out.
Yeah.
And so that's what they were doing at the end.
And that is the end of Sansa 1.
Holy hell.
And the cheese arrives. That's the end.
Cheese.
So I think with that, we'll go ahead and convene our small
we need to jump right into it because we kind of
get inductees.
Let's go.
And all that fun stuff.
All right, we're here. We're at the small council. We got a lot to break down, I think, here.
Yeah.
So I'm throwing it to you right. Boom, bang. Who's your inductee? Brain fart.
I think it's interchangeable because I guess I can't give it to two, but left or right, whichever one.
No, that's interchangeable.
But
that one can.
Because
Tweedledee and Tweedledum influence, I think.
Is there something to the Eric and Arik? Are these two going to end up dying at one of the other's hands? Who knows? But it's fun to speculate. And Olenna is kind of savage, just calling them left and right and not bothering with their names. So the prelude to learning of how prickly the Queen of Thorns can be left and right for me.
Nice.
Yours?
That's a good one. I actually haven't thought about it till right this second. And so mine on the fly, let me think of who we just met during all of that. And I'm going to give it to the Hound. So I think that his appearance in this chapter, I think her wishing that he was here is just a big thing, like, to show his character that. And again, like, we are sitting here spending half of our time bashing her naivete and her ignorance to how things are going.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm sitting here going, oh no, the fact that that means something good. I do really think she inherently, for the most part, has a very good eye and good insight as to what people's intentions are. No, there's something off about him. Mm-hmm. She just doesn't know how to interpret that stuff yet. And so I definitely think she, more than anyone, has seen the good that can be the Hound, even though it hasn't really come out whatsoever yet. And so I think this is the start of seeing that arc begin to show a little bit more of who he can be, other than just Joffrey's monster.
Yeah.
So, the Hound.
Word. Good inductee.
Yeah.
We did get some from some of you listeners. From Karen, she wrote us in saying, "Poor Sansa. Like Davos, she has severe PTSD from Blackwater, but she already learned the lesson Littlefinger thinks he taught her later in the series. She is questioning Margaery's motive, thinking of every possible reason she would invite her to meet. I wish the Hound was here. I like her realizing she should have gone with him, and he would have protected her and kept her safe. But even though she's shown so much growth and intelligence, she is still a sweet, young girl. And you can tell how smitten with Loras she is, and she has no idea about him and Renly, and so she stuck her foot in her mouth without any context. But my girl is learning, listening, and taking it all in. Queen in the North. Inductee is the baddest bitch herself, who Sansa learns from, the Queen of Thorns. From her first appearance, it's clear where Margaery gets her cunning. Plus, she's amazing. Give 0 fucks." Thanks, Karen.
Very much so.
Olenna is, of course, always welcome.
Yeah, and I think we can give a just an honorary induction to Lady Dames Riggs.
Diana Rigg?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just as
I mean, like, that's just blanket at this point,
right.
Yeah.
So, we also did receive another inductee from across the pond, Julian from France.
Julian.
Hello, boys. A very nice chapter to be introduced to Lady Olenna and to Oberyn Martell, who would make a great inductee, but no. I've had a better idea. I want to underline this particular sentence, which I loved reading. All those kings would do a deal better if they would put down their swords and listen to their mothers. Brilliant on so many levels. I immediately thought of Catelyn Stark and King Robb, but then also of Joffrey, who didn't listen to Cersei and had Ned killed anyway. And you guys will probably think of many other examples, I have no doubt. Anyway, just wanted to induct Catelyn for this reason. As her point of view chapters prove, she might indeed have had a good influence on Robb's choices. King in the North! Have a nice day, Valar Willis.
So we got a Queen in the North and a King in the North.
When I was looking at his, when you were going through Karen's, I saw that.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. So
thank you both.
Great Catelyn one. I think you got the big ones there, Julian, with the mothers.
Well, shit. Renly didn't listen to his either. His grandmother.
Yeah, we didn't really kind of go over it too much, honestly. But, well, Renly's grandmother's been dead for a number of years.
Well, his grandmother-in-law.
But his grandmother-in-law, when he was looking for her. But, you know,
well,
she wouldn't take claim for him.
Yeah. Who cares?
Anyway, but great inductees. Thank you for writing in. Next chapter.
John 1.
John meets motherfucking Mance Raider.
Mance Raider, rough Raider.
So, get us your inductees.
Yeah, for John 1, John North of the Wall.
Our episodes are kind of spaced strangely lately. There's been a lot of real life stuff happening here, and not to mention, you know, whatever the fuck's going up in politics right now. We're sorry, the rest of the world, for what you're seeing here. Like, can I get a hallelujah that somebody caught COVID? What? Anyway, get us your inductees. After John, do you know who's after Danny? Danny's first chapter is after John.
Where can they get us inductees?
Yeah, get us inductees through our email, withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. You can get us on various social medias, Twitter @mannerswithout or @carstark92. The Instagram is @mannerswithout. We have our Patreon, which is kind of giving you the access to the Facebook groups.
Yeah.
When we're able to get out extra episodes, we try to do so.
Bear with us for now.
Yeah, like life, again, there's a fucking pandemic, man. We're trying our best. That's patreon.com/withoutmanners. The facebook.com/Brotherhood Podcast. That's the open to the public group, not the private one. So get us your inductees, rate, review, subscribe, do all the good stuff, and, stay safe, wear a mask, Black Lives Matter.
Vote.
Yeah, dude, if you're in the United States, fucking vote for that fucking shit. Fuck,
and
get
if
out of
you're
there.
everywhere else in the world, tune in for John 1 and write us in.
Yay.
Valor to Harris.
Peace.